they? Who they all day? Who they? Who they all day?
Horrible, tragic, indefensible, no defense. But you got any words? Any other words to describe what happened yesterday at Paul Brown Stadium, friends?
Shocking.
Shocking?
Shocking.
Shocking?
Really?
I never saw a blowout coming for either team.
Well, no, I didn't see a blowout.
No blowout.
Like I said last week, the way that the 49ers operated in week one on offense did not suggest that they were going to be able to put up 41 points.
Okay, so what about you, Philip Lee?
Surprise, just a little bit. I mean, I didn't expect the egg to be laid this early in the season by the Bengals.
And there it is. The big old stinky egg got laid at home.
Scrambled at home.
Jeez, 41-17. Bengals absolutely murdered by a team that a year or two ago was terrible. Scott Kaiser's favorite team, of course.
They picked second overall this past draft, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm Tanya O'Rourke. Scott Kaiser said wave or something like that. He's joining us via Skype. Philip Lee's here today. I should have stayed on vacation. John Popovich is stuck in traffic somewhere, so we're just moving on for the Flying Pigskin. And we have how many more weeks of this, guys?
14, I think.
14 left to go. I picked the team to go 8-8 because I'm a homer, and I'm seriously thinking I lose that bet big time.
I think you will.
Yeah, everyone's in agreement right there. We're so glad you could join us, and we want you to get your Bengals fix every Monday by subscribing to the Flying Pigskin podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, all those things. But let's get right to it, guys. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Scott Kaiser, who's joining us via Skype, or is this Skype? Are we supposed to even say that? Yeah, it's Skype. Yeah, it's Skype. He is a big 49ers fan, so this is a good day for Scott Kaiser. He texted me yesterday, and it was obvious. It was a good day yesterday, too. And then Philip Lee, say hello.
Hey, hello. How is everybody today?
And Philip got to be down on the field the whole game.
The hot field.
The very hot field.
It was scorching down there yesterday.
Yes.
I heard someone say it was 125 coming off the turf.
Are you serious?
And I believe it. It was hot.
I mean, I had friends at that. I did not go to the game. I had friends at that game who said that they were just literally drenched. They were so hot. It was unbelievable.
It was one of the worst I've experienced down there.
And, you know, it's fine to be hot and miserable if your team's winning. Not so fine to be hot and miserable when they're not.
Well, a lot of those folks never came back after halftime, so they went and cooled off.
They went and cooled off at a bar or at their home or in the car driving back. So listen, and I was getting text messages from people who were there in the third quarter, and it was like an empty stadium with like 2 people in, you know, it's just, I feel so bad for our new coaching staff because this entire city is like, and we're done. We're done. We're done.
Done before it started.
I mean,
basically.
And I feel so bad for them because they seem like very nice people who have been given a giant pile of poo to work with. Is that fair? Is that fair?
Well, here it goes. It never fails. I knew I would, as I walked the sidelines of the game yesterday, I just kept waiting, and I finally heard what I was expecting to hear. I believe it was in the third quarter, Andy Dalton threw an interception. I'm walking back to the end of the field. Some Bengals fan stands up. Put Finley in. He couldn't do any worse.
That's right. And there you have it. And
I wanted to say, sir, this is not on Andy Dalton. Please. Have you been watching this game?
It was so not on Andy Dalton. But I also got here for the first time yesterday, and the Dave Shula era has begun. And I'm like, already? Come on, everyone. It's going to take a year or two. And I know that we as Bengals fan, I as Bengals fan, and all of you listening, we're impatient. And we should be impatient because it's unconscionable that the team played like that. The lack of tackling. Do you want to just start with the lack of tackling?
Yeah, why not? It was obvious right from the start. I mean, on that first, it was the second touch. First or second touchdown, I don't know. They all blended together, but
well, there were many of them.
It was like William Jackson III was playing Olay with a bull out there, rolling the red cape. Here, go on past. We don't want to touch you. It was terrible.
Now, that is not. Is that player personnel? Is that coaching? What is that? Kyser, chime in.
Well, it seemed like it was communication breakdown on a couple of those touchdown plays, and I'm assuming that Philip, you're talking about the one where Goodwin was behind the defense and nobody was ever going to touch him.
No, that was the first one. I think it was the second one, the screen play.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one I'm thinking of, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and in general, there was just a lot of, bad tackling and missed tackles. That can be attributed to early season stuff, guys just not executing. They were blown assignments for sure on a couple of the plays, but,
Zero sacks. Explain that one. 0 sacks. I mean, there was very little pressure on whatever that beautiful quarterback's name is. Garoppolo. He is a lovely.
How many O's in Garoppolo?
I had said last week that it would be a little.
Go. I'm sorry, Kyser. Go. What?
I had said last week that it would be different going against San Francisco as far as the front seven was concerned, because Seattle hasn't invested in their offensive line. So the fact that they were able to do that against Seattle wasn't very much of a litmus test. This was a little bit more of a litmus test because the Niners don't have a good offensive line by any stretch of the imagination, but it's better than Seattle. And so, but again, if you would have said, well, the Bengals won't get a single sack, I would have called you crazy, because I expect, at least one time that there would have been something. So that, again, another shocking fact.
Funny thing, the Bengals haven't invested in their offensive line either.
Well, that was evident because the Niners got all sorts of.
Scott, I would rank that 49ers offensive line years above Seattle's. I mean, because the Bengals, they never got close to Garoppolo yesterday. This running back, I'll admit, I've never heard of his name, Breida. He looked like an all-pro yesterday. They were clearing holes for that guy like you would not believe.
It was avenues. There were big, not lanes, avenues.
I'm ahead of the play, try to get the play coming toward me for the camera, and you just see this hole open up, play after play, as this guy was coming out of the backfield. I'm like, how are they doing it? And it was just over and over again.
And let me just say, for those of you listening, if you're not familiar with Philip Lee, I'm a news anchor. He's a sports photographer, so he knows far more than anything else. But you're also you're down there. You get to see so much that we don't get to see, and you get to experience so much that anyone at home really never gets the opportunity to do that. So you're seeing these just incredible lanes open up for Breida, who had a killer day.
And I asked somebody, who is this guy? I've never heard of him.
Well, heard of him now. 121 yards. 121 yards. More than the Bengals offense, right?
Combined for the last 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Breida's undrafted, and then they brought in Mostert, who has been a career backup. Not to mention, they also had a guy coming off the practice squad to boost things there. So they're taking guys essentially nobody's ever heard of and doing that. So again, this is why I say it was shocking, because I know these guys can play, and I know that Shanahan can turn running backs into anything, from guys you've never heard of. But even still, you don't expect to get 200 yards on the ground in any NFL game. That's a great day.
Each of them having more yards than the Bengals offense.
And let's talk about that. The Bengals running game.
Should we?
It was MIA yesterday. Mixon missing in action.
Yeah?
I mean, I don't know if his ankle played any role in that. It was up to a game time decision whether he was going to be active or not. He was active. He looked good. He looked the part. But like I said, I don't know if that ankle injury he suffered last week in Seattle played anything to do with that. But it was bad.
There's so much to talk about when it comes to Mixon. But I do want to ask, because it leads us into his conversation or his statements regarding people booing. The booing, from your perspective, Philip, on that field, how loud, how early?
I didn't notice it until one play. It was in the third quarter. It was the Bengals were on one drive where, in a span of 3 plays, Dalton got sacked twice. On the second sack, he came up, and for the fans who were still there, It was Boo Bird City, let me tell you. And it was loud. The few, the proud, and the loud. That's the way I described it when they were starting to boo on that play. That's the one that I really noticed the most.
Okay, so Mixon makes the statement generally, and I'm paraphrasing here, if you think you can do better, come on out and try out. Come out and play.
That's what he said.
I think he's frustrated. I get it. It's hard to hear that. It's hard to hear those boos. It's got to be devastating. Do we give him a pass on that?
I think there were a lot of just frustrations in general yesterday in the locker room when we went in there.
Yeah, what was that like? Talk to us about this locker room.
Yeah, it was even. I'd say even kill. I mean, when they win, more guys are more talkative.
Sure, of course.
But they were talkative yesterday too. They were owning the loss. They were owning the loss, and as well as Zach Taylor, he came out and said, "We were terrible. We own this, and we will improve." Well,
and not. I don't want to get so far afield from Mixon because I want to get you in here about it, Kyser. But I got to give so much credit to Zach Taylor for, I listened to his post game, much of it, and I was really happy to hear him own that because that was just a pathetic show of football. They lost on every level. They got manhandled in every way.
From that opening drive.
Which felt a lot like Marvin Lewis's opening drive. Did it not? But, and so, but thank you for owning it because, so many sins are covered by the fact that someone just says, yeah, we stunk and it's my bad. I got to take this one. We got to get better. We got to move on. Great. I want to get to you, Kyser. Mixon, your thoughts.
I think you give him a pass from the fact that, he's done it. You know that he's a good running back. This isn't somebody that, was a flash in the pan or whatever. So, the skills there. I don't know if it was the ankle or the offensive line just struggling against, a really good front seven. But I give him a pass on it because, again, it's frustration. And, I would say to him, though, hey, look, man, it's the first year of a new regime.
Yeah.
We're going to be and it's week 2. Like, you can't show that frustration maybe in that way where you're telling the fans to come out, but owning up to it and doing all that, those are all the good things. But maybe he should just chill just a little bit on getting on the fans. I mean, I also get on the fans though because it's week 2 under a new regime. Like, you've got to give it time. It's I understand you're upset that they're maybe not playing well and they're getting blown out, but it doesn't serve and it doesn't help anybody to sit there and boo things like that this early in the year. I mean, if this is still happening in week 14, then fine, go ahead and boo. But come on, I know there were
people are going to be there.
I can tell you even at the start of that game, the energy level in that stadium on a scale of 1 to 10, now this is my opinion, I'd give it about a 5.
Really?
And as that game progressed, you could hear a pin drop out on that field. It was bad. And let me tell you, I traveled to a lot of NFL stadiums for this job. I've been doing it for 12 years now. And once again, this is my opinion, so don't hold me to this. Paul Brown Stadium is the least excited stadium NFL atmosphere that I have ever experienced.
I would agree with that. I mean, there was a few seasons ago where I was traveling with you quite a bit to cover games. And I mean, Denver's oh my gosh, that stadium, you reverberate in there. Like, you're just, the energy is insane. Pittsburgh, my gosh.
Yeah. We talked last week about how, Seattle's got this big about being the loudest in the NFL. I didn't really think it was the loudest I had ever experienced. Like you say, Denver, it was rocking. Even New England.
Yeah, of course.
Seattle sort of reminded me of a New England atmosphere. But Paul Brown Stadium, the fans that come out, something's got to change.
Well, something has to change, and they did change. So they changed Marvin Lewis, and they now we have a new coach, and he's 1 game into his home season, like home. Okay, 1 game in, 2 games in his whole career here, and I feel. Look, I
thought I was going to feel more out of place yesterday. I was shocked at how much red there was, shocked. I didn't realize there were so many San Francisco fans this side of the Mississippi.
And they were loud too, Scott.
What's that?
And they were loud as well.
Yeah, no, they were so loud that one time I went to the sessions and I was where I couldn't see a monitor. Something happened and I thought the Bengals had made a big play. It was something for the 49ers. They had made a it was that loud for the visiting team. Again, shocking.
Look, here's the thing. We have this new coach. They wanted him to come in because he has energy and he's got that LA Rams shine on him and he's young and he's got all these assistant coaches and position coaches. There's more coaches down there than I've ever seen before, which is great. We need it. But we still have the same players and half of them are hurt. And, poor Andy Dalton, 9 sacks in 2 games. How long before we're on the back of quarterback? Because that poor guy breaks a finger every other season and he's going to break a rib here in a heartbeat. But, you can't, in my opinion, right? You cannot blame Zach Taylor and say, well, the Bengals are, you cannot just completely write them off. We had to know this is going to be a crapshoot this season. This is not going to be good. It's not going to be good because we don't have any, we did not go out and go buy a bunch of fantastic players like the Rams did to become extraordinary quickly. We did not do that. We do not have an elite quarterback. We don't. Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. I don't have a problem with Andy Dalton. No. But he's not the Peyton Manning. He's not Tom Brady. He's not those guys. And so we don't have someone to build around like that. We don't have these, seasoned veterans who are extraordinary that we're paying for to come in. How far under the salary cap are we at the Bengals? Talking about $40 million a year?
I'm sure it's a large amount under the cap.
I think you got to start spending some dough.
Well, add to that the fact that, they've kind of drafted mediocre to poor the past few years. Yeah. So, he's got to clean that up. It's not just, we haven't signed any free agents or anything like that. He has the legit excuse that, these aren't my guys, and a lot of them have either underperformed or just been okay. So,
and with that as well, they've gotten rid of some of those guys that they've drafted, that the previous coaching staff drafted over the last 3 to 4 years.
That's correct.
You've seen a bunch of those go this year. So, you got to think, okay, he's looking. I got to get my players that fit my style of football and guys that I think are going to come in here and be difference makers. It's not a quick fix.
No, we're looking 2 or 3 seasons down the road. We have to, right?
The cupboard wasn't completely bare, but it's not an overnight fix.
Right.
So.
No, the cupboard was not completely bare. This is true. There are some very talented players on that team, but there is not enough supporting staff that is of a high enough caliber, and that bench is not deep enough that to support those 2 or 3 or 4 really outstanding players. And to let them have the space to grow. Look, Andy Dalton, again, go back to him. I said he's not an elite quarterback, but the man's been in this league for quite some time. He's not a bad quarterback. He's a perfectly good quarterback who has only the year that he had an incredible offensive line. He was great. He was really good. If you don't have a good offensive line, you're just not going to be able to score points, period. You cannot run. You cannot throw. Not for distance. And this line is porous at best.
They've got a lot of work to do. Last week they looked good. This week they looked lost almost. And granted, like Scott said earlier, the Seattle defense isn't nearly as good as the San Francisco offense. So if you use this as a measuring level for that offensive line, where does it go? Where some good defenses better than San Francisco's comes calling.
Right.
It's going to be a long year.
Well, and I do wonder though, and I'll ask you too, is that now coaching? Because you have all preseason to prepare game plan for your first game. You know who you're facing. You know it's the Seattle Seahawks. You know it's not going to be easy. So you got to practice with those guys with loud music or whatever. You've got to, that team you're going to be facing. And now the Seahawks, week 1's done. So now you got to pivot quickly to week 2. And now like the pace of the NFL that every week it's a new team and you have got to be game planning for them. Is that now a coaching situation and or scouting situation where like, okay, your scouts had better be on it. Your coaches had better been, being thinking ahead and game planning for that next week, because I guess I'm asking, is our coaching staff not prepared, was not necessarily prepared for week 2, but week 1 they were.
No, Zach Taylor yesterday said they were prepared.
Okay.
That was a direct quote. He says, we were prepared.
Well, somebody
So
wasn't.
in his eyes,
Right.
they were prepared.
So
That's only going to get you so far, you know?
I mean, I assume that he was prepared. I mean, he's a professional head coach, and these guys are professional. It just comes down to personnel. I mean, you can be
Right.
all prepared in the world, but it doesn't matter if the other guys are just better. And sometimes they're gonna be. Even nobody goes undefeated in the world.
Translate that into other professions. Lots of times you'll hear people say we were prepared. They weren't prepared.
you think the Bengals were not prepared?
I don't think they were.
I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
They might have thought they were prepared, but then I also agree with Kyser in that, you can game plan and be ready and say, this is what they're going to do. They're going to try to attack us this way. They're going to try to stop the run. They're going to do whatever. But if you don't have the horses, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If their horses are faster than yours, their horses are just faster than yours. And that's all there is to it.
And let me throw in, and I'll give you a plug here, Scott. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks over the time I've been doing this job. Garoppolo, I would rank him in the top 3 of his play action passing game. Here's how I judge that. When they can throw me off from following the ball,
right,
I know they're good. He's good. The other 2 that I've seen, Roethlisberger and Peyton Manning. I would put him up. I'm not saying he's as good of a quarterback, but in his play action passing, the guy is solid.
Really?
Yes.
Well, he did learn under Tom Brady, too.
Well, he did. I would put him up there better than Tom Brady. I've seen him as well.
On play action?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you did just say he's behind.
To the fact that they were able to get 200 yards in the ground when they're gashing you, it's pretty easy to be good at play action. But yes,
Yeah.
Jimmy in a short time as the starter has shown that he's very good when running play action passes. So that wasn't too shocking. But again, if you're getting 8 yards a carry, it's not too hard to fool the defense into run the ball every time.
So let's talk Dalton. Like you said, this is not Dalton's loss. It was not.
No.
He had a perfectly good game in the sense that, he had 1 interception.
What were his numbers?
26 out of 42. That's not great. 311 yards. That's good. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 90 rating.
Yeah, a large chunk of that 311 came on that last touchdown play to John Ross.
It's always that way, right? that
so,
fourth quarter, like,
put him about, 270 or something like that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So not a great day, but not...
But that should have been enough to keep you in a ball game.
It should have... That does not reflect a 41-17 loss.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. And you look at 41 points on the board in an NFL game, that's squarely on your defense.
Yeah. I looked at some stats earlier. The secondary led the team in tackles. So what does that tell you? Yeah.
That tells you a lot.
Well, every one of the corners and couple of the safeties, they were the top leaders in tackles yesterday. So that means they were getting downfield and those guys were making tackles 8, 10, 12 yards from the line of scrimmage. So,
and I know we talked about this before we started. We were just goofing off and waiting, talking. So I don't know if we talked about it during the thing. What was it? 12 possessions for the Bengals. 5 of them had 7 yards or less on offense.
Rough game.
That
There's
is
no way
a
to
rough.
putting it.
That is by definition a rough game. However, there were some bright spots. Should we talk about some bright spots?
Talk about them.
Okay, Tyler Boyd. I'm sorry, Tyler Eifert's first touchdown of the season. He did not break yesterday.
Play action coming off the low, like about a 2-yard score there. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to file that under the good things every single time that John Ross and Tyler Eifert walk off the field healthy.
They did not break, as I said.
It is.
they were not broken by the end of the game.
Wait for the next game.
And on that drive where Eifert scored, that was the Bengals' second possession. They got the ball, marched right back down after San Francisco had scored. And we're like, okay.
Alrighty then.
All right, here we go.
It felt okay.
Here we go. Like that, boom, boom, quick action, runs, passes, touchdown. After that, there was nothing.
Nothing.
I actually thought it was,
where did it go?
Okay, what Kyser, start over. What?
I said I actually thought at that point it might turn into a shootout.
Yeah.
It was tracking me because they scored so easily, and I thought, well, the Niners just did that. I guess it's just going to be a high-scoring back-and-forth affair where nobody plays defense. And then, the Bengals, all of a sudden, that was it. They were done.
Yeah, when we were talking to Tyler Boyd in the locker room, he used that exact wording. He goes, I thought we were in for a shootout.
Yeah.
And he goes, so much for that.
Yeah, and so then, guys, what happened to the Bengals offense? It has to be, to me, the line is just not present, large enough, capable enough of protecting their quarterback, giving him the time, giving the running backs the space to run. I mean, is it just that simple?
I'm trying to see. How many sacks did they give up yesterday?
Well, he was on his butt 4 times.
4 times.
No, 5 times. 5 times. Sorry.
In the game of football, period, it starts in the trenches. You're only as good as your defensive line.
Right.
So if either of those is struggling, you're going to be in for a long day, either on offense and defense. And the fact that their offensive line just kept collapsing meant that you're not going to be able to do anything. Mixon can't run. You don't have time to pass. And so it shuts everything down if you can't stop the pass rush.
Yeah, here's another thing that I'm scratching my head about. I heard many analysts, I'll use that term loosely, describe.
Yeah, because I could be considered an analyst.
Gio Bernard he's going to fit into this Zach Taylor offense. Wonderful. We're going to see new, fresh things out of him. Man, after 2 games,
you ain't seen nothing out of him.
I haven't seen anything out of him. They brought him in.
They're holding him out. They're waiting. They're waiting.
He got in there and spelled Mixon a few drives. He can't run the ball in this league. At least with this offensive line, he can't. And they're gonna spread him out and mix him into the passing game. Well, I didn't see any of that either.
How did you like the play calling? I mean, obviously it didn't do well, but I mean, over the first 2 games, and I will admit the first game I didn't see because I was on vacation and unable to watch it. But you're seeing play calling now, right? 2 games in a row. I mean, obviously they lost, but they almost won the first game. So are you seeing anything interesting? Are you seeing this fast-paced excitement?
Scott, what do you think? Go start off on that.
I think that the offenses looked a little bit more lively. The problem is in both games, you're forced to throw the ball so much. The first game, Mixon goes down. All right, you're starting running backs out. So now we got to throw the ball. This one, you get down early, and then you got to keep throwing the ball. So, I mean, they haven't even really been able to get their offense kind of in gear. I mean, it seems fine so far. They've had a couple of plays where you're like, wow, guys are wide open and they're executing and stuff. But again, if you don't have time and you fall down early, there's not much you can do. The playbook gets cut in half if you're always playing catch up.
Yeah, no running game yesterday, and the short, quick 10, 12-yard passes that worked well in Seattle, you saw not as many of those worked as well yesterday. And I think that's what San Francisco probably keyed in on, knowing that there's really not a downfield threat on the team right now until maybe AJ gets back. Well, so I think they keyed in on those plays, and for the most part, they shut them down.
I mean, it's clear that they're using the tight ends well. The tight ends are doing well. But you're right. We don't have that deep threat until AJ Green comes back. I don't think it's fair for everyone to just go, this team stinks. They're terrible. Yes, this is actually accurate as of this moment. But until this team gets healthy and we can actually see with the parts that he has, which I grant you are not collectively the best parts in the NFL, until we get AJ Green back, Mixon keeps his mouth closed and keeps his ankle on. You got like everybody kind of where they're supposed to be. It's going to be difficult to judge his offense, I think. And I think that we're going to all still sit here at the end of the season and go, well, the line still stunk, so they couldn't really get anything done. And mid-season, AJ or Andy Dalton might be so hurt that it doesn't matter.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's never going to matter if the offensive line is what it is.
Right.
Like you're never going to see the offense that you're hoping for if you're worried about that, because the offensive line, AJ Green or not, can't get the ball down the field to AJ Green if Andy's on his back or if he's under pressure. So,
right.
Unless the line miraculously becomes a wall unexpectedly, then I mean, the offense is going to be kind of what you're already seeing.
Yeah, you talk about you mentioned Andy Dalton getting hurt. Well, there's another quarterback in the AFC North now who is out for the year as we kind of transition on to another subject. Big Ben Roethlisberger, season-ending elbow surgery announced today. So,
and I'm enough of a Bengals fan to be like, oh, dang, he's out. But I'm really awful, I know. But see, here's the thing. What bugs me the most out of all of this is that as the Steelers are kind of going down, we should be rising, right?
It would be a good year to do it.
Last year would have been a great year to do it. This year would have been a great year to do it. And it makes me crazy to think that it probably won't matter that Ben's out.
So
it probably won't matter for the
Bengals, Steelers both set at 0-2 now. So when they meet 2 weeks from now, hey, maybe it might be the first win for one of the teams. You never know. Unless they tie on a Monday night.
And it's a Monday night game. Oh, my God. But so here, look at our little division here. So you got Big Ben out. They're 0-2. Cleveland has not materialized at all yet.
Big game for them tonight against the Jets. Oh, boy.
Jets.
What if they go into New York and
lay one?
The Browns go 0-2, and all of a sudden the Ravens are the top of the AFC North, sitting 2-0.
The Ravens right now are like, season over, we got this. Go ahead, what?
I said if the Browns start 0-2, they should cancel their season, especially against the Jets.
I think the Cleveland Browns will win that one. What do you guys think?
I don't believe in hype.
I know, it's still Cleveland, right? John Popovich is not here. We can kind of poop on Cleveland a little bit. They do find. I mean, look, I say this as a Bengals fan, but Cleveland always finds a way to jack it up.
And they would probably say the same thing about the Bengals.
Bingo. You are so right about that. So that's, I think that to me is the bummer, is that right now, if the Bengals were even any good, this is such an opportunity season for them. For anyone, right?
Yeah, but let's go back. Did you really expect it, though?
No.
That's the question. We can talk about it, but did you really think it was going to happen?
No, of course not. I mean, no one out there, no one listening right now. I know you all are ticked off. I get it. This should not be a surprise. Now, there was an embarrassment for sure, but the loss should not be a surprise. The loss, the first week, I think, was palatable. This one was not. And I think that's what really ticks everybody off, is now they're like, oh, forget it. It's over. I'm not going back.
I have the schedule posted on my desk out in the newsroom, and I went through and predicted every game. I started them off 0-4. I don't have the first win until the Cardinals game. So I'm halfway there.
What did you, and I don't know, what did you think the whole season would be? Because you weren't here the first week.
I think I gave them 4 or 5 wins.
That sounds like Kyser.
I went 4-12.
Yeah. I was 4-12, 5-11. I can't
Papa
remember
was
exactly.
7-9. I was a sucker when 8-8. Hey, it can happen. It could happen, you guys. Always look on the bright side of life.
Well, bright side next week. 0-2 goes into the Bills. They're 2-0.
Thank you for that wonderful transition.
Thank you. You're welcome.
0-2 versus 2-0 at Buffalo.
Who are the Bills?
I don't know.
I mean, we were talking about that before we got started. Who are the Bills? Who did they play the first 2 games? I don't even know. Scott, who did they play?
Who did they play?
They played the Giants yesterday and the Jets in week 1.
Oh, see.
So they haven't been out of the state of no, they've been out of the state. They go to New Jersey. So.
Yeah. but look, the Jets are not good. The Giants.
Not good.
Eli will be out of a job before the season's over.
You think so?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Poor little Eli.
They didn't draft Daniel Jones to sit him all year.
To sit all year. No way.
No, that's true. So, I mean, so it's possible. Although they
But I do think that these Bills are a little underrated, regardless of the fact that they played two like crappy teams. You got to beat the teams in front of you, and I think this Bills team is just a little bit better than everybody thinks.
Yeah, they are.
But I don't, I don't know because it's their home opener, that might skew things a little bit. But I don't think they're going to come out and blow the doors off Cincinnati. I mean, this is a winnable game, for Cincinnati. I expect the Bills to win, but I would think that they wouldn't get embarrassed 2 weeks in a row.
Well, see, that's the thing. So here's what I think that we, the Bengals, have going for them is that you were so embarrassed at home. You've got to come back swinging. You got to get out there, just be like, screw it. We're leaving it all on the field. We got to do it. And just, mighty duck it. We just got to get out there. And then the Bills might be looking past them. They got to go to the Patriots the next week. Yeah. New England the week after us. So maybe they're like, Cincinnati, they're terrible. And maybe those two things equate into a Bengals win. I think that's possible. Probable? No.
Probable and possible.
No, I didn't say probable. I said possible. Anything is possible. But I think that there's an opportunity there.
Look, there is no opportunity unless you can get more than 50 yards running the ball in a football game.
I know.
You go 34 and 23 in your first two games. Come on. I mean, 75 or 80. You gotta open the field up with that running game. If not, they're just gonna sit back and focus on that passing game and say, beat us. You're one dimensional.
And that is the case. I mean, that's what all these teams can do now is just say, y'all can't run.
No.
So go ahead, try.
I mean, that might be to their advantage coming into next week because the Bills might just be focused on stopping the pass, and that could open up some lanes. But, yeah, I mean, until you get Mixon going, then they're just going to struggle.
Until you get Mixon going.
I think you're looking at a similar outcome to week one where it's like a close loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we should just go ahead and just ask for what we think is going to happen. Go ahead, Kyser, since you're the farthest away from us.
I'm going to say 20-14 Buffalo.
I'm going to go with a loss. I've already told you that I predicted they'd open up 0-4. I'll say 28-17.
See, I wouldn't give them 17 points right now. I think they're going to lose too. I would like to believe that they'll come out and just muscle it. And I don't know. I don't know that you can. Yeah, I think that they lose. I think it's lower scoring for the Bengals. I think that Bengals maybe get 10, maybe 2 touchdowns at best. And, they get beat. I can't tell you. I don't know enough about the Bills to know how badly they get beat by, but I think you're right. I don't think it's a 41-17 loss. No. I think it is closer to what happened game one, but I think the Bengals, I just don't see them putting a lot of points on the board. I just don't. I think it's sad. And I would just end with this. And I would love to hear your – do you want to say something, Kyser?
Well, I was just going to say, get back to what we were talking about in the preseason. There's going to be a lot of losses along the way, but you need to see victories within the game.
That's right. Progress.
There were no victories in the 49ers game, so next week they need to get back to, we can take this away, and we did this well, and we came up short, but look, we've got this good film to use to keep building momentum. So that's what you're looking for. A loss is a loss no matter what, but some losses are better than others. And week one is an example of that. I think that this Bengals team overall is somewhere in between what we saw week one and week two.
For the fan base, was that 1 point loss at Seattle
a moral victory?
Did that suck them in?
Yes.
And then yesterday,
it sucked me in.
It happened where, oh my gosh, now what?
That's exactly it.
The worst thing that could have happened to that team by losing by 1 point in Seattle, and then coming
and a winnable game, by the way.
In a winnable game, if they would have gone to Seattle, got blown out yesterday,
they've been like, okay, well, we expected this.
We expected it. I think that's one of the reasons the fans may have been reacting the way they did yesterday. I
agree. And I think most people assume that Seattle's better than they maybe are right now. They'll probably be better by the end of the season, but they're just not the Seattle Seahawks that we knew a few years ago. So I agree with you. And this is kind of exactly where I wanted to end it, which is that both of you said something really important. Like, I think that the expectations, Philip, as you mentioned, got a little higher after week 1 and now are just completely crushed after that just beat down.
Yes.
And number 2, Kyser, so folks, by the way, on that point, like, we have to, I think, understand that this is a incredible process. It's a new coaching system. This is a team that really hasn't changed player personnel all that much, and not really for the better, honestly. And then, Kyser, to your point that we got to start looking for the victories within the losses. If we're seeing progress, and I hate moral victories, I really do, but if
they're like participation ribbons.
You're right. At least in football, I hate moral victories. Moral victories in life are great, but if we can see progress, I think that's what we're going to have to do this season. Is we fans, if we're real fans, we got to understand this is where we are. It doesn't mean we have to like it, but we have to be able to go, this is where we are as a team. And it's not going to happen this year for us, probably. But if we can see, like, hey, I like the way this guy thinks, or, you know, or as a coaching staff, like the staff, look, they're doing great, or, you know, we're seeing progress within the team week to week, I think that that's something that we can feel better about.
But that could be the hardest thing to sell, particularly to this fan base.
There is no excitement in this town for this team. I will tell you, all summer long, I kept waiting for people to start getting excited about the Bengals.
No.
Maybe it's still hot out. I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like football yet, but I kept thinking there's a new coach. People are going to get excited. In Marvin We Trust was the big thing when Marvin started here. There was no excitement like that for poor Zach Taylor, who is really a nice guy. And I don't know.
I think I saw the attendance numbers yesterday were just a little over 50,000.
65,000 is what that.
A lot of seats empty as the game started, and you know, a lot of them never came back for the second half.
Well, Kyser, I think, do you disagree with what I had to say there, buddy?
No, I mean, I agree with Philip that maybe I think I even got a little sucked up into it because, again, going into Seattle and keeping it close or winning, not an easy thing to do. The 1-point loss, it just tempered my expectations, I guess, for the Niners because they didn't play all that well in their Week 1 game. So I thought this would just be a lowing score, like sloppy game that the Niners would pull out. But I never saw this coming, hence the shocking part at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, you're just looking for little things here and there.
Yeah.
The 49ers were in the exact same position 3 years ago when they had hired Kyle Shanahan. You know when the regime comes in that it's probably because the previous coach, you know, left everything horrible. And at that point, I went into every 49ers game, hey, if they win, great. But, you know, did they get dominated? Did they, you know, did they run the ball effectively? Did they pass well? Like, you know, are young guys, like, taking strides? Like, those are the type of things, like, you know, again, if at the end of the season the offensive line is still a sieve, you know, then boo, then be upset. But if, you know, week to week, it's like, well, okay, they played a little better here, and there's going to be step backs too. It's not always going to be, okay, so they improved all the way through, but, you know, these games are going to happen. Just be patient and just accept
so hard.
Whatever you get is gravy.
Well, I mean, you know, this Bengals organization, it is difficult. You